Come. It is time now for You Got the Power with your host, Omar Neal, live.
Well, welcome again to the You Got the Power show. I am your host, Omar Neal. Well, for the last multiple shows, we've had guests coming on talking about the COVID virus, 19 virus, and also just looking at how it is impacting not only this country, but the world. Well, today we're going to take another twist. One is this is going to be like a town hall meeting because I want to hear from you. I want to hear your voice. Each of us, in our own way, have been impacted severely by this virus, and so we are going to delve deeply into the areas that impact, particularly the African American community. I'm going to give you the number now to begin calling. If you are on Facebook Live, you'll see the number posted there. But for those who are listening on the radio, you could give us a call at 1-646-558-8656 is the number to call. It's 1-646-558-8656 is the number to call. The access code to the program, once you get in, the access code is 545-094-732. Let me give you that number again. It's 545-094-732. And we're going to take some phone calls in and talk about this. Let me tell you why I wanted to have this conversation. Recently, the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, decided that he was going to open Georgia up for business, particularly in the areas like the massage area, the barbershops, and the nail salons. Well, we know that our people predominate in those particular industries. I was thinking about this, and I don't like to be overly cynical, but for those of us who are getting our stimulus checks to the tune of $1,200 per person, and of course, additional $500 for children, that there's going to be some money circulating in the African American community. And so when you open up these areas where we tend to spend our money, then that money leave the African American community, leaves our homes and go into areas that evaporate pretty quickly. So once you get your hair done and you get your nails done and you spend your money on that, then that's temporary. It's not going to feed your family. It's not going to put money in terms of some savings so that you can stretch the money, because you don't know when you're going to be able to get additional monies. We don't know how long this virus is going to ravish our country and the world. And so we have to be frugal now as we utilize our resources. And so that's why I wanted us to have this conversation. Secondly, as it relates to businesses, we have people who have small businesses who have not gotten any stimulus money. The $350 billion that was allocated for small businesses have already been used. And they said that there are no monies available if you've not gotten any. Well, many of the people that I've talked to have not gotten any money in terms of small businesses. So those dollars were consumed by the larger of the quote unquote small businesses, the ones who had relationships with the larger banks. They were the ones who got first dibs. Now they're talking about another stimulus package to the tune of $320 billion to come out in the next few days. That is supposed to be targeted to the smaller financial institutions where more of the African American businesses have relationships. And so we are hopeful that in this round of stimulus support, that the African American businesses will be the beneficiary this time? Well, we recognize that when resources are scarce, that people hoard, and greedy people try to get as much as they can rather than trying to be generous with others. And so we have to make sure that we have people who are in position to be able to support and to be vigilant to make sure that the communities that have been systematically disenfranchised get their fair share. And so that's one of the things that we want to talk about. We're going to also talk about not just what's happening with COVID-19, but what will happen afterwards, after we open up everything as it relates to the testing and relates to the clinical trials and resources to deal with the health disparities that gave rise to the increased mobility of Black people as it relates to this COVID-19 virus. I mean, we are dying at greater rates than any other demographic. And so therefore there must be some attention. No, let me be more explicit than that. There must be intense attention to the issues that impact the African American community. And we need to do that now. And this is not something that we need to be guessing on. This is something that we need to demand. It was a saying that power succeeds nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. And so I want to make sure that as we focus on this notion of reconciling the African American community in terms of our health, our wealth, how do we weather this storm? I want to make sure that we're holistic as we deal with that. Let me say this about the kind of consumption that we have, the propensity to do, that we go and buy things just to buy them, oftentimes not things that we need. Let me say that we must, at this juncture, we must refrain from doing that. When you get your stimulus money, recognize that you don't know how you will fare in terms of getting in additional stimulus money. There was Senator Cory Booker and Congresswoman Omar and some others who have a proposal out to allocate $2,000 per month for a year and to pay for the mortgages and rent for a year for people affected by this virus. And so they realize that this is not a short-term situation. This is a long-term situation. And for those who would suggest that you can just go out now because somebody says in some date that it's okay to go out and that the COVID virus is no longer lurking, that's not true. The COVID virus does not have a date. It is the science of it that it will get anybody, and it doesn't. It's not. It is not racial. It doesn't care what race you are. It doesn't have no concern of how much money you have or who you think you are. It can get anyone, and that's why it's so important that we look at it from that vantage point. We're going to go to the phone line, and let's bring up 8483. You up next. You got the power. Where's your comment? Hello. Let me. Okay. All right. Let me. 8483. You up next. You got the power.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much for keeping our community aware of the seriousness of this virus. I just left the Addis Court area being tested myself. I was encouraged about the number of what I would call senior citizens. There was a few mothers brought their children over, but the hip hop crowd that was there in a block party 2 weeks ago, Easter Sunday, is not in line. Over 200 people have been tested this morning in the Addis Court, and that was encouraging. I saw people coming up on walkers, canes, wheelchairs, but these are seniors to be tested. So
let me ask this. Is this one site, or and let me say this for those of you who are listening, and other than in Pensacola, this is Pensacola that we're talking about, Pensacola, Florida. All right, and you're saying that there people are being tested now. Are they exercising social distancing while they're being tested?
Absolutely.
Now tell me, how are they coordinating that?
Okay, people are separated 6 feet apart. They're wearing masks, gloves. The people doing the testing have on their protective gear. You got the people in charge of the housing area. They got their masks and gloves on. It is very well coordinated. You go into a tent area. They do a insert of like a Q-tip, if you will, of your nose. Within 3 to 5 seconds, you're out of there, and they give you instructions to wait on your results. They will contact you. But I want to stress to the crowd that was at Addis Court on Easter Sunday in a block party, they too need to be tested. But you don't see that crowd, that hip-hop generation, do not believe that this virus is killing people. There's a young lady that passed away. She's 56. I will not attend her funeral tomorrow, but I'll go and sign the register book. She died of the virus, and I was told just an hour ago her niece, who was visiting her, got the virus. It is serious. And I don't know why we have a segment of our population that are playing games with their lives, thinking that this is some type of hoax, because that idiot up in Washington tell them, okay, we're going to let everybody go back, open up the economy again. The county commission here will take a vote on opening the beaches back up next week. And I've called the county commissioners and told them that was a stupid idea.
Well, I think this is one thing that we need to say. It's just because somebody opens something up don't mean you got to go. So that's the first thing. Exactly. And I think it's important to understand this for those who may think this is a hoax. I don't know if you can call 45 plus thousand people dead as a result of this COVID-19 virus. That's a hoax. If you look at the number of, if you could just line up 45,000 caskets and look at that particular visual, I don't think that you can call it a hoax. The other thing is that you are not immune from it. And I think what's so important that I make this statement too, for young people who may think that somehow I'm strong and that, you know, my body will ward it off. Yeah, that, you know, you may or may be correct. I don't know. You may or may not be correct. I don't know about that. But I do know this, that when you contract the disease and then you go around other people to whom you love, you can very well give them the disease and kill them. And so your mother and your father and your grandmother and your aunts and your uncles and other people can very well die as a result of you. And so when you when you're doing it, when you are being irresponsible by not engaging in social distancing, you are literally placing your family and the people to whom you purportedly love in jeopardy. Let me be clear on that. So it's not about you. If it was just about you, yeah, you know, you can live or die. That's up to you. You know, you live while you can, die when you can't help it. If I can't die for you, I'm certainly not going to live for you, right? So I'm not going to do that. But it's not just about you. It is literally to be selfish when you choose to go and to operate recklessly, recognizing the danger that lurks out there. And so that's of critical importance. Ellison, thank you so much
Yes,
for constantly keeping me updated on
yes, sir.
everything, man. I love you so much. I appreciate what you're doing. We're gonna get through this, but we're going to
Oh, yes,
have real conversations. We're gonna have
yes.
real conversations about this. It's gonna be critically important we do
Thank you so much, Omar.
that. I appreciate it. All right, let's go to the phone line. The phone call is the next one is 3776. You up next. You got the power. What's your comment?
Hey Omar, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Great, great. It's good to talk at you for a while.
Absolutely.
Haven't talked. Yeah, yeah. You got people out there, governors out there talking about sending people back to work, opening up their states, but the jobs that they are opening up is going to affect us the most because we are the one that work in those a lot of those medial jobs, and we are already in trouble as it is because of this virus. And if you notice, in Georgia, the only place that they are really opening up a nail shop because they want that money, that stimulus money, that little $1,200 that won't last that long. I mean, it's good for those who didn't have anything at all coming in, but if they go out and spend it, they won't have anything because this is a one-time deal as far as I know. But the thing about it, to send those individuals back out there is to say, we don't care anything about you. That, we were looking at some pictures the other night, last night, matter of fact, Carol and I, and some people was already at some shops that and with no mask on, nothing to protect themselves. And this was in Atlanta already. Some people had opened their doors and they don't supposed to open up till Friday on top of that.
Right.
So it's really a tragedy to see that and to know that people are going to lose their lives over this. And already somebody, those numbers that we see, those casted of people that we see that you are talking about, those 45 or so thousand people, and that, and I'll listen to people, yeah, it's so many people die anyway in a year, but it's not that many in 2 months, that die like that.
No, what's happening is this, for people to rationalize this or try to equate this with something else, one
Right.
is that's a false equivalence. Understand this. I've talked to a lot of people about this, and everyone who's really knowledgeable have shared with me that we have never seen anything like this. That no
Exactly.
one alive that could remember it. You have to realize the last thing they can even compare it to was in 1918 with the Spanish
Exactly.
flu, right?
Mhm.
And one of the things that happened with the Spanish flu, the first round, I think it may have killed anywhere from 2 to 5 million people. And then the second round, when it came back, it killed 20 to 50 million people, right? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So these things can come, and when you don't exercise social distancing, because that's the only thing that can safeguard us, is to be distant, because there is no vaccine for it. And so therefore, once you contract it, and it's not a long, protracted illness, within a certain amount of days from contracting it, you can literally be in a morgue.
Right.
That's how deadly and lethal this virus is. And so if we're going to play Russian roulette with not only our lives, but the lives of our family, that's what I want and loved ones. That's what I want you to understand. This is not just you. When you go out there and you operate in a reckless manner, you're not just doing that for you. You are a threat to your entire family. You know, the reason why grandmamas who's not, you know, there are a lot of people, and we need to talk about a lot of things that's going on. Grandmothers who not gone out of the house is dying from COVID-19 virus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she didn't go out of the house, which means that somebody had to bring it into the house, right?
Right.
And so what we are saying is that we need to protect our family by protecting ourselves. And this has to be the message. We cannot be equivocal on this. We have to be unequivocal. Protect others by protecting yourself. If you don't love you, it's got to be somebody in your life that you love. Do it for them.
Right. Right. You know, Omar, what's happening now is this person that calls himself a president is influencing people to go out and protest, unmasked out there with nothing on to protect themselves. And these people are going to be the danger for this country, because what they are doing, they are out there protesting with no protections on, nothing to protect themselves. Then they're like an armed insurrection, you know, out with guns and all of that, and flags and Confederate flags and all of that. They are not out there for opening up the country. They're out there to really talking about overthrowing those state governments. But the good part about it, they don't have enough people going with them to be that stupid. And then Trump is, talking about liberating the state of Virginia, Michigan, and Minnesota, and you're pushing a violent uprising in this country. If he's too stupid to not understand that.
Well, I don't know if we can call him stupid. You have to realize that, he does not have the forum now to go out to the rallies. So he's using the bully pulpit to kind of rile up his base and to get his base ginned up, and that's kind of his MO. But it's not at this point. It's not about him. It's about what we do, right? It's not about what anyone else does. It's about what we do. Even when it comes to voting, when people talk about, well, can he win or can he not win, or will how many states that he have to win to regain the presidency and all of that. And what I say is this: let's not go through all of that. I say 5 words: vote and remove all doubt. That's it.
Yeah.
That's that's the message. That should be the universal message to everybody. Just vote and remove all doubt, right? If the people of goodwill, if the people who have any sense at all, right, understand where this country is and where this country is going, not only this country, but the world, know that we need a different direction, that the direction that this country is going in right now is clearly towards destruction. And so therefore, if one does not see that, then something is wrong with them. Personally, that's what I think, right? But the point of the matter is, I'm not even concerned about what someone else does. Everybody has the right to vote. They have the right to support whomever they choose to support. That's your right. But let me say this. I tell everybody else, vote and remove all doubt. That's my
right.
And that's my concept.
Yeah, and I imagine on another show, we probably gonna have to talk about the right to vote and to be able to get out to vote. That's going to be crucial in the coming days. The unfolding days that we're gonna have to deal with in November. But my last comment is, I believe that somebody needs to stand trial for crimes against humanity, and we've often, there's crimes being committed against all of these people that could have been abated before it really got out of hand. And so That's my
You're
take
talking
on
about
it.
the dereliction of the federal
Of
government
duty,
to
yeah.
act earlier.
Right.
I saw something. I saw something recently that President Obama in 2014 um, uh, had a speech where he literally said that in 5 years there can be an airborne disease that can ravish our community, and that he had put in place an agency to
Right.
address this pandemic issue, right? The
Right.
possibility of a pandemic, and to scan the world for
Mm-hmm.
these pandemics when they start, so that you can mitigate them and contain them where they were, so that they could not get over to this country to do what it has done.
Right.
So the point of the matter is, it is being proactive rather than being reactive. But that the president that exists today, that occupies the White House, dismantled that agency, that particular organization,
Right.
that
You know,
left us vulnerable.
right. You know, that the George Bush, the one that, we thought that wasn't that great, which he wasn't, but he was obsessed with the pandemic. As a matter of fact, he started the same thing that President Obama put in place. He had already did a lot of stuff for the pandemic because he read about it. As a matter of fact, he made a speech about it at one of the places over there in Europe. You can go back and check that speech out. But he became obsessed with putting something because he understood once he read about the pandemic in 1918, he
Mm-hmm.
realized that millions and millions of people could die. And President Obama carried out that mission to make sure that there were things in place. So, and if people remember, the Ebola came under his administration, and the H1N1 was under President Obama administration. What they did, they got the World Health Organizations together along with all our scientists here, and they went to places like Africa and everywhere else. You remember, to stop the Ebola.
What we recognize is that you cannot be an isolationist and deal with
Right.
the pandemic. So
Exactly.
that's antithetical to your own self-interest, right?
I'm telling you.
Right.
I'm telling you.
I got some folk on the
right.
line, man. I love you, man. Thank you so much for giving me a call, as always.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Let's go to the phone line. 8 let me see, 1516. 1516. You up next. You got the power. What's your comment? Hold on, let me get you on. Okay, 1516. You got the power. What's your comment?
Hello, brother Omar.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Yeah, this is Todd Davis, Dr. Todd Davis. And I just want to say that I'm enjoying your show. It's very informative, and I really appreciate it. I'm family, if you can remember me.
Absolutely. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine.
What's your thoughts about this? Man, we really have to talk about it. I think it's important that we have a voice. I think it's important that we talk about it, that we kind of process it and be proactive in dealing with it, not just letting things happen. Because what happens to you is based on two factors: your activity, something you do, or your passivity, something you allow. So I want to make sure that we have a voice. What's your thoughts about this?
Well, I agree with a lot of what the people who have called in have been saying, and what you have been pretty much advocating and whatnot. I personally believe that when it comes to them trying to open up different businesses and whatnot, I guess like in Atlanta, they're planning to open up the barbershop. They're planning to open up the workout venues and whatnot. And maybe certain restaurants are supposed to follow in line with the following week. I think it's too soon for that. And I believe that they're still trying to study this virus themselves. There's a lot we still don't know about it. And it might be too soon for them to have people starting to go out just yet. And
well, you know what's interesting? Let me say this: the health professionals, the people who actually understand this, right? Public health professionals are saying that it is too soon. CDC is saying that it is too soon. So people know it is too soon, right?
Right.
They know it's too soon. So if you're doing it against the advice of the people who are advising you or should be advising you, then what are you doing it for? And I'm suggesting, just as Jerry mentioned earlier, that maybe is that these stimulus checks are coming out and they are targeting places that they know we spend our money. Hair, nails, things like that.
I could not, agree with you more. You know what I'm saying? It is as if they timed it right at the time that people start receiving these checks.
Right.
So that they can go out and spend the money. And I agree. It's too soon. And it's still a lot that the health professionals and the scientists that are studying this virus don't quite understand about this virus. So we don't know how long, if you do come down with the virus and your body starts developing antibodies, how long that will last.
Right.
We don't know that yet. You might not be immune to it. You may actually get it again, if you get reinfected again. So there's a lot of things like that. It might just be until they come up with a vaccine. It's like the flu. You have to take the flu vaccine every year.
Yeah.
Because
what's so interesting is that the head of the CDC said if this comes back during the fall, it's going to be worse than what we've experienced so far. That's what that was headline news today, right? And so we don't know how protracted this particular virus is going to be. So we have to operate with extreme caution because it is a matter of life and death. And obviously, if the people who are experts at this are saying don't go out, I would much rather take their advice than some politician's advice.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Joe Omar. You're absolutely right. And I think that's what most people should do. I mean, It's almost if the people that will go out will be like guinea pigs.
Well, they will be, and there are people who they see as expendable. There are people who they say they do a cost benefit analysis, and they determine how many people can die where you don't feel any impact. But every life is valuable, and that's why we're doing shows like this to let people know that your life is valuable, and that you need to make sure that you protect yourself and your family. Stay at home. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Love you, man. Take care of yourself here.
As well, man.
Take care. Take care. Absolutely. All right. Let's go back to the phone line. 2756. You up next. You got the power. What's your comment?
Hey, what's happening, Mr. Omar? Mr. Rodney Jones.
Hey, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good, sir. Pretty good. And just to chime in, sir, I do believe it's a money issue in association with, like you guys said, and everybody else before me, in regards to these stimulus checks. Now, here's what I look at even more so. They look at the target consumer. And when you look at the targeted consumer, that would be the population that spends the most money per year based on what's coming in. So African Americans are spending $1.2, $1.3 trillion a year, and most of it is not reflected in our communities. So therefore, the business owners understand that they're spending this money mostly frivolously, buying junk things that don't really matter most of the time, but they know they're going to get them to come in and spend that money. So I think it's not just, I think it's methodical in what they're doing. And it's targeted also because the population that's receiving this stimulus money mostly are those who are going to be the biggest consumers. So we know we're going to get them out into the marketplace and get them to spending money and all of this stuff. And then opening up this country to this, it's kind of not making sense to me based on the fact that the population that's being targeted, if you will, and also the most vulnerable population, all being one population or one demographics, which is the African-American population. We suffer from the most health disparities. So therefore, we're the ones who are most at risk for this disease and how it impacts our community. And to start to open up different states and beaches and things like that, I think these individuals are not thinking about the population and not thinking about the people in general, but are thinking about their pockets.
You know what? One of the things, Rodney, that you made a salient point. Do you know they did a study? They said that 80. They said, hold on, somebody. There's somebody on the line that's got some children in the background, but that's okay. All right. There's a study that says that in the Asian community, the money circulates like 30 days. All right. In the Hispanic community, no, in the white community, it circulates about 18 days. They say in the Black community, it circulates about 6 hours, $1.
Wow. Gosh.
So when you're talking about not even having a consciousness of having an economy, because there is a distinct difference between having money and having an economy, right? And so when you look at how money circulates and what you purchase, and whether or not it adds to the wealth or it's just throwing money away, generally speaking, right? Then you see that our patterns, if not changed, all of the dollars that come into our community will be gone within days. And so we will not be the beneficiary of even having had those dollars. That's why it's so important that we stop, man, and we call a time out. We say, let's not continue to do what we have been doing. They say insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results. We got to do something different, man. We literally, we got to change this. And maybe this is the time that maybe we need to sober up, understand that this is not, we're not in Kansas, Dorothy. This is, we someplace else, and we need to act like it.
That's a fact. That is certainly the case. We definitely need to start acting like it. I think, and many of us as African-American leaders, we have to start getting back into our communities and articulating just that, that we have to get to a place where we start to understand that status quo is or the individuals who are in positions or the powers that be tend to manipulate and use and traumatize vulnerable populations because we are consistently allowing that. And what we have to do is we have to move to a place as leaders and start to articulate to our community and hopefully bring some of them up to a particular place where they start to understand and see our population holistically, and we can start endeavors that will improve and enhance and educate and enlighten our community at large.
Yeah,
and that's what I want.
I agree. I agree with that. But it's got to be a paradigm shift. The other thing is that I remain I'm hopeful of leadership, but disappointed in the kind of conspicuous absence that I see in leadership, really, addressing these critical issues in these critical times. And so
I agree, except for the time when except for, this particular time frame when it's election season, we see them come out and they're doing all of these particular things in the community. But what I say to them is, where have you been for the last 3.5 years in regards to putting things in place consistently that impact our community that could create this atmosphere for a paradigm shift? Otherwise, you're just showing up because you want to get a vote. But we sometimes as people go ahead and vote for them and put them right back in there and then get the same thing for 3.5, 4 more years.
I believe that the best indicator of what a person will do is what a person has done. So I'm a fruit inspector. So
yes, indeed.
The tree is known by the fruit it bears, right?
Yes, sir. That's a fact. That
Absolutely.
is a fact, man.
Well, love you, man. Thank you so much for calling. Let me say this. You work with young people. What is this notion that young people are seeing themselves as invincible? Why don't they get it? Now I do know that it's difficult to stay put, when you got so much energy, and so I'm trying not to be, overly punitive or critical of young people, because this is difficult even for older folks. But do you think young people really understand the gravity of the moment, generally speaking, Rodney?
I think that's the issue. They don't really understand the gravity of the moment. But at the same time, I have to go back to say, who's articulating it to them, and are they doing it on a consistent basis? See, people are showing up, and I know, we have this kind of a divide, young people and old people sometimes, and we don't bridge these gaps through information and education. And I think because we're not being consistent enough in articulating this to our younger population, they don't really get the gravity of it. They don't think it's really, really as bad as you say. Nobody is really consistently kind of bringing that to us and saying it's that bad. And then at times I see other adults practicing the way they're practicing in this. So now I have to think it must not be that important. Right. It must not be that bad. Right. And I think that's where we are, Mr. Omar, where there's this gap, and we're not putting out this information consistent enough that people understand the gravity of the issue, and they start to grab onto that. Parents, it's just like when, we're teaching school from online, However, what I shared is, hey, if the parents don't have any structure, the kids are not going to have any structure. So how do you expect them to get this work done that you're putting on these Chromebooks and laptops and all of that? How do you expect that? Same issue here with getting this information out to our community. If adults aren't getting it out and they're not taking it as serious as they should, do we expect any better from the kids?
Yeah, I think that you hit it right on the head, man. Thanks so much for giving me a call. Love you, man. Thanks so much for.
Hey, love you too, Mr. Omar. Thank you.
Take care. Love you, man. Take care of yourself here. All right.
Bye.
All right. Let's go to 1516. You up next. You got the power. What's your comment?
Yeah. This is Dr. Todd Davis again, Brother Omar. I'm sorry, I was on before, but it was one thing I wanted to state that I didn't get an opportunity to just say yet. And my thing that I've been trying to get my family to do is to take vitamin D. The reason why I say vitamin D, particularly in the African-American community, is because a good 80% of African-Americans have vitamin D deficiency. And why do I say they have vitamin D? Why is that important? Because you need vitamin D for your immunity. It keeps your immune system strong. Vitamin D does. And you get vitamin D from the sunlight, being outdoors. You need sun rays and interact with the skin, and it creates vitamin D, and that gives you immunity. And that's just something that I wanted to make a.
You're correct, man. That's one of the things. But we also need to deal with health disparities, because we got a whole lot of health issues that also make us more vulnerable, and we need to talk about those things as well. Thanks so much for giving me a call. I appreciate you. That's okay. That was well. That phone call, the follow-up phone call was good. Thanks so much. All right.
Take care.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. let's go to 3965. 3965. You up next. You got the power. What's your comment?
Hey, Omar.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Pretty good. I mean, I really want to applaud the value of this show. And you talked about leadership, and this is the leadership. Leadership is those institutions that we control that speak to our needs. That's our leadership. We're not looking for a personality. We're looking for institutions and businesses that support our interests. So we don't have to wonder and worry about where we're going to get leadership from. It's the You Got the Power show. It's our voices on the Macintosh Principle. It's Robert Hill. It's Rodney. It's Lumen. It's all these people and these institutions that are speaking to our needs. So we have leadership. The question that Rodney was speaking to in terms of the young people. And so we need to guide them to these sources. We need to find ways to guide them to these sources, such as your show and other shows that are addressing our issues. So I just wanted to get that in and say that, we don't have a leadership problem. We just have a problem of recognizing leadership when it's available.
Let me ask this question, because I think it's important that we look at it from the vantage point. Yes, information is important. I agree with that, and that information is power. You and I, we agree. But I'm talking about advocacy on the part of our leaders, where resources are demanded from the power sources. I mean, that we get resources into our community. So we're not just saying be a certain way.
Right.
For people who got money, you can stay in. But for people who are broke and need to get out to get money to hustle just to survive, that's more difficult for you. Who's speaking to those critical issues where we have economic disparities and making sure that money is pumped into those areas that give people the opportunity to survive, and not just for those major corporations where we're spending trillions of dollars with major corporations where people are literally eating, trying to stretch their food just to survive on a daily basis.
We have to build those institutions for ourselves. We have to build those banks and financial institutions for ourselves. Other groups do it. Other ethnicities do it all the time. I don't want to go down a list, but there are a list of those ethnic groups that do that. And so, like I've said in the past, forget about that great waking up morning when people are going to wake up and start caring about you. If somebody would bring you 9,000 miles, if their ancestors would bring your ancestors 9,000 miles across the Atlantic Ocean and work you for free for 400 years, I don't think they're going to be concerned about whether or not you got any money. So we have to do that for ourselves. Those among us who have the economic knowledge and the knowledge of financing and so forth. So I hate to bring it that cold, but that's just what time it is.
You're saying the system is not going to correct itself. There's not going to be some great getting up morning where the system corrects itself.
Right, because
when it has used you as a commodity for 400 years, they're not about to see your humanity at this point.
Exactly. That's the nature of an unregulated and unbridled capitalistic system. You got to have somebody on the bottom. You're not going to know you're rich unless somebody's poor. That's of course the psychological edge on it. But in an unbridled, unregulated capitalistic system, you need somebody at the bottom. And so we need to just grow up, and realize that we're gonna have to do these things for ourselves. And we can try to vote, like you say, get out and vote and try to get people in leadership positions. That will help. That will help. Right now we have a leadership in Washington right now that's very selfish, very elitist, and has his own agenda. And a lot of what we've seen over the past few days has been to help his agenda. This so-called reopening, satisfying people who have not committed themselves to staying at home and so forth. So he's playing on that weakness in the human nature to want to get out and want to run up and down the street. So that's the type of leadership we have now. So certainly we need to vote in people who local, state, and federal vote in people who care about others. You know, who are actually living out Matthew, and Jesus said, "If you haven't done it under the least of these, you've not done it under me." So those are the type of people we need to put in office to help bring about what you just described, Omar.
Yeah.
A combination of those two. We got to walk with those two legs.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you so much for your phone call.
Yeah, I need to get in one last thing, Omar. Here in Pensacola, we're going to need a strategy, and this is for Rodney and other guys who are listening. We're going to need a strategy when the hurricanes start coming and start showing up. We're going to need to be able to shelter people and maintain the social distances at the same time. So that's just something to be thinking about.
I think you need to be proactive in that. I agree with that, because the hurricanes are going to come, and that's going to compound what we got. What we're dealing with now. So I appreciate
and
that.
I'm sorry, but I just need to get this in also. People need to know this. When your loved ones get sick or ill with this disease, and they get in the EC, in the hospital and so forth, and they are terminal or whatever, you are not allowed to visit them. So just think on that for a minute. You know, just think on that for a while, that you are not allowed to visit them in their last hours.
Right. Yeah. Well, the other thing is too that a whole lot of people can't go to funerals now. So
that's right. Not to mention funerals. So just think on that. If you want to take this thing and play with it, you just imagine somebody in your family passing, and you cannot visit them in their last hours, and you cannot attend a funeral.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you, man. Thank you. That's putting it where the cows can get it, man. I love you, man. You always do.
Okay. Love you too, brother. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
All right.
All right. Let's go up to 6085. You up next. You got the power. What's your comment?
Hi, can you hear me, my man?
I can hear you well.
Well, listen, what a great program. I just want to say, listen, you know what CPR is? You know what happens when somebody have a heart attack and you're supposed to do CPR?
Yeah.
Guess what?
What?
The American Heart Association just put out new guidelines for doing CPR. This COVID-19 pandemic is affecting everything. Now somebody falls out, folk will say, I may not want to do any resuscitation. We all on our own on so many levels. Mr. Omar, we've got to be part of the solution. And the ultimate solution is a vaccine. And I'm going to suggest that black folk need to say to the feds and the NIH, no vaccine research on us without us.
Yeah.
And that's to say that we want to be part of it. We should not be left out of it, because those who participate in the vaccine research will be seen as heroes. Heroes.
You know, I want to talk about clinical trials, because it's critically important that we are part of clinical trials, but yet and still we got a great skepticism, and there's a lot of cynicism around clinical trials, Tuskegee syphilis study being the impotence of that. How do you get Black people to understand the importance of being engaged and to be involved in clinical trials, so that whatever vaccine comes out, it is responsive to our biological construct?
Well, let me just say that, you know, I think that the several lessons from the Tuskegee syphilis study mean, number one, that Black folk who are mistrustful have earned it. It is legitimate. It is because of the research abuse that has happened in the past. But we've made some progress in addressing those concerns with human subject review boards, but we have to do a better job, I think, in educating our community about clinical trials and getting them to demand participation. Here's what's really interesting. We know we have these racial and ethnic health disparities in our country, but when you look at studies that finally do get Black folk involved in the clinical trials, the disparities go away. Why? Because you get top-notch care. I know in America you shouldn't have to join a study to get top-notch care, but I'm just telling you the truth, brother.
But that's just for the people in clinical trials. It is not an overall the system that creates disparities based on your ethnicity, your and all of the other categories that you're placed in, being poor, different things like that. It doesn't impact those disparities, but it does impact the disparities of just the people in part of the clinical trial, right?
That is absolutely true. But part of it is that we have to be advocates. If our folk participate in clinical trials and can deal with the myths and misinformation, and then we're in a position to do what? To demand justice. Those who participate in clinical trials should not be denied the benefits of those trials. My brother, they go down in other countries like Africa and poor countries and come up with groundbreaking new drugs to save lives. But the very people in those countries who participated can't get those drugs. If we participate, we then demand access to the solution.
That's another thing too, doctor. We gotta talk about, man, because once the vaccine has been developed,
Yep.
who will get the vaccine?
Thank you.
That's going to be the next hurdle, right? That we got to deal with. We know that we the last ones to get whatever it is, right? Right.
That's been the pattern.
Even though we have the greatest need, we are not prioritized. Even today, as you look at,
Yep,
the kind of mobility of this particular disease,
yes,
they're not targeting our community, even in terms of resources to keep people in their houses. They need resources so they can stay in their houses.
Thank
right?
you.
So you would think that trillions of dollars would go into the Black community to help people stay in their homes.
We are now in the sixth day of a news cycle, and the predominant disproportionate death of Black people from COVID-19 is still leading the news. If that doesn't translate into resources, my brother, we got a problem. So now everybody knows what a health disparity is, and that we're dying before our time.
Right.
Now is the time that we step up.
You're right, man, and I'm so happy that you gave me a call. We're going to be doing some things with the University of Maryland. Can you kind of just tell them what it is that you are doing and how you're doing it? I'm gonna give you 30 seconds to do that.
Okay, Omar. I'm Dr. Stephen Thomas, professor at University of Maryland School of Public Health and director of the Maryland Center for Health Equity. And we are reaching out to Omar Neal, and you got the power to bring a message to our people. And what we're going to be doing is bringing on elected officials on the 30th of this month in a forum that we're titling The Color of COVID-19 Maryland, Confronting Racial and Ethnic Health Disparities in a Global Pandemic. And we would love for your audience, Omar, to join us and be part of that.
Right. So that's great. And so we want to make sure that you know about that. We're going to give you some more information next Wednesday because it'll be the next day. So we'll give you some more information. So we'll keep you posted on it. Dr. Thomas, thank you so much, man, for the work you do. You're an incredible person, and I'm honored to say that I know you and that call you a friend.
Oh, my brother, the honor is mine, and I love how you make us put it where the goats can get it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, man. I'm going to see if I can give this person that's been hanging on so patiently in the last 30 seconds. Okay. Well, I think we're good. Hold up. Let me see. 0965. You got about 30 seconds. Go ahead. Okay, I think, is that it? Okay. Are you there? 0965? Oh no, 66085. Are you there? Okay. Let me go to 4771. 4771. You up next. You got the power. What's your comment?
Brother Omar.
Hey.
Hey, I know I only got a few seconds. I'm sitting here holding a rock in my hand.
Okay.
44 years ago tomorrow, on the 23rd, I was sitting on the banks of the Mississippi River, and I had I was a part of another virus. It was called Poontang virus. And I had to put myself in self-imposed wilderness. Right now, we as a people need to search our souls and find out who we are and what we are in the world right now, from self-awareness and from soul searching. And the only way you could do that is you have to separate yourself from everything that's negative. And I happen to have done, you know, Poontang virus is like nitroglycerin. That thing will blow up in your face.
Yeah.
And I had got tired of living like that. When I was in Cuba, I would tell people in Cuba, when you go back to the States, you have an opportunity to change your life and come back a new person, because nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Now
Well,
we have that same isolation all across America.
Yeah.
When all of this is
I
over.
got to do is I got to get out. I got a hard stop at 1 o'clock. And thank you so much for giving me a call. We'll talk later.
Hey, how you spell love?
LOVE, leaving others very encouraged. That's how you do
No, leave others victoriously empowered.
it. I love that too. Take care. Be good.
Love you, brother.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, the clock on the wall says it's time for us to get you up out of here. I'd like to thank you so much for being a part of the You Got the Power program. I'd like to thank every voice that I heard, every ear that listened, for directing your attention to this show and what we were sharing with you. We recognize that we are all possessors of some truth. And as we bring our truths together, then and only then do we get closer to the truth. Thank you for sharing your truth. I want you to stay in the house and stay in. Don't allow the lures of retail to take your life and the life of your family. Now, I'd like for you to support this program, because we need to stay on the air. And this is how you can do it. Send your checks and money orders in care of You Got the Power at P.O. Box 146, Tuskegee, Alabama, 36087. Also, you can support us on PayPal as well as Cash App on Facebook Live. As always, I'd like to leave you with these 2 words. Remember that I love you with a perfect love. But more importantly, remember this. You got the power. We'll see you next week, same time, same station. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.